On today's Locked On Royals podcast, we're going to dive into the weekend that was for the Kansas City Royals. We are going to dive into the Royals' dominating win on Sunday against the Padres. Could that put them on the right track for the week ahead? What went wrong on Friday and Saturday? And how is this young lineup producing? All of that and more coming up on today's Locked On Royals podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your teams every day.
You are Locked On Royals, your daily Kansas City Royals podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Let's get it going on the Locked On Royals podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day. I am your host, Rylan Stiles. You can follow me on Twitter at Rylan_Stiles. Follow the show on Twitter at Locked On Royals. Email the show, lockedonroyals@gmail.com. On today's show, we're going to dive into the weekend that was for the Kansas City Royals, including their series over the Padres. We're also going to discuss where the Royals can go from here to attempt to make themselves in a better spot heading into the offseason, heading into next year, and how this young lineup is producing. We've talked a lot about the young pitching staff and talked a lot about guys like Brady Singer coming around, but how is this young lineup doing? Because it'll take both of those things to end up making the difference for the Royals long term. I want to thank you right now for making Locked On Royals your first listen every single morning, every single day. We're here for you talking Royals baseball. Subscribe for free across all podcasting platforms as well as on YouTube. And for your second listen, folks, the Locked On Podcast Network is massive, and so we've got for you Locked On Chiefs, Locked On Mizzou, Locked On Jayhawks, Locked On K-State, every college, every NFL, every MLB, every NBA team that you want, hockey team as well. We've got it all for you. So make sure you're getting what you want, what you need, and let's talk about this weekend. So if you remember the weekend preview, I thought that this could be a trap game for the Royals. I thought that the Royals were capable of beating the Padres because of all the ways it lined up. So the Padres were struggling a bit, maybe starting to press a little bit, and the Royals had an off day before the series started and an off day after the series ended. So that was going to lead the Royals to, possibly having that edge about them where you come into Friday rejuvenated and overlooked because the Padres are struggling and you've only won 51 games this year, and you're excited, you're at home, you've had that day off, you're ready to get back at the ballpark, and then on Sunday you're thinking, hey, you can look forward to that day off on Monday, and then all you got to do is shoot up to Chicago, so not even a long road trip. You can truly utilize that off day on Monday. And that just didn't play out all that way because on Friday, the Padres won 13-5. The big story from this game on Friday is just Chris Bubic getting roughed up for the first time in a long time. He's been on a roll of quality starts, and he's been on a roll of just pitching a lot better. But in this game, kind of reverted back to some old habits. Very, very, very hittable. Through 4 innings of 9-hit baseball, 6 runs allowed, 1 walk, 3 strikeouts, and then let up 2 home runs. And that's your ball game. You give up 6 runs through 4 innings. That's a lot of pressure on your bullpen, and they just didn't come through. Now, Snyder pitched a clean inning of work in the 5th, but then Brad Keller comes out of the bullpen to the tune of 3 hits and 1 run allowed with a walk and a strikeout. And then Amir Garrett, who's supposed to be, a reliable veteran for you. He has a 5 ERA this year. He gets only 1 out. And gives up 4 runs off of 5 hits. And then the game gets so out of hand and so just, um, you know, laughable that Hunter Dozier comes in and he pitches an inning. He pitches the 9th inning, 2 hits allowed off of him, 2 runs allowed off of him, with a walk and a home run allowed. And so that's how the Padres scored 13 runs off of 19 hits. Their lineup was electric. Kim had a 3-hit day. Profar had a 2-hit day. Manny Machado had a hit and a walk, so he was on base twice. You had Drury score a run. Josh Bell, 2-hit day, 2 runs scored, an RBI, a walk, so he's on base 3 times. Will Myers carved up the Royals again, 3 for 5, 2 runs scored, 3 RBIs. Cronenworth, 2 hits. Myers, Bell, Kim all had doubles. Myers, Cronenworth, Kim all had home runs. It was just to a point where, that offense was clicking on the other side, and you weren't. And I think what's most disheartening is the Royals got to Joe Musgrove. The Royals were able to get to a pitcher as a sub-3 ERA, and they roughed him up for 8 hits and 5 runs. Only 2 of them earned, but still, they did scratch across 5 runs. They got 8 hits, they got 1 walk, they hit 1 home run, and Musgrove only struck him out twice. That should be a recipe for success. If you get to Joe Musgrove, again, who has a sub-3 ERA this year, if you get to Joe Musgrove, you should be able to win the game. And if you knock him out of the game before the 4th inning is over with, which the Royals did, you should not be blown out. And instead, that's what happened. Because then Suarez comes in for a clean inning of work, and the bullpen shuts it down. They don't give up a single run after Musgrove leaves the game. Tim Hill is electric in his 1 inning. So was that Franchy Cordero for Tim Hill trade really worth it? As he goes 1 inning, 2 strikeouts, no hits allowed, and has a sub-3 ERA this year. Would you rather have Tim Hill right now or, the Franchy Cordero trade not go through? Now, granted, you parlayed Franchy Cordero into Andrew Benintendi, which was parlayed into those 3 Yankee pitching prospects. But, Tim Hill looks really good, and he looked really good at the time that you traded him. And then Chris Mack comes in and gives up 2 hits, no runs. So the bullpen shut down the Royals, but their offense did muster up 11 hits, which was a massive day for them, especially considering their current streak. You had Nick Pratto and Nicky Lopez with doubles. Nick Pratto was the one that hit the home run off of Musgrove. So Nick Pratto in this game goes 2 for 4, 2 RBIs, a run scored, and a strikeout. MJ Melendez has an RBI. Bobby Witt Jr. is a 2-hit day, 2 for 5. Salvador Perez, a 2-hit day, 2 for 3, 2 RBIs and a walk. So he was on base 3 times in this one. Nick Pratto, 2-hit day, Nicky Lopez, 2-hit day, and then Drew Walters, 1 for 4 with a run scored. Now look, Drew Walters' average is 250 right now. So I get that it's not eye-popping, and later on in this weekend he'll move it up to 263. I get it's not eye-popping. I get it's not just this sign of dominance. But I really like the way that Drew Walters approaches the game and approaches every at-bat. He looks comfortable. He looks like he is a professional in the sense of he has a really good eye, I think. I think that he understands the difference between swinging at junk and understands counts and when to swing and what to swing at. And also, I think he understands situation. I think he understands when you need to be more conservative in the sense of when you need to lay off of pitches and try to take that borderline pitch and see if you can make it a ball, and when you need to go ahead and swing and try for the fences or try for the gap. I think that he just understands the layers of baseball really well, and he never looks overmatched up there. And so he's off to a 260 start, average-wise, but I think that is just bound to go up in the future. So that was the Friday game. After we were talking about, trap games, turns out on Friday, Padres win 13-5. Now, what happened on Saturday as Daniel Lynch returns to the mound after his quality start to the last outing. We'll talk about that coming up. But first, I want to ask you a question. Are you one of those people who thinks it's okay to drive stoned? What's the worst that can happen? You end up driving below the speed limit? It's no big deal, right? Wrong. The truth is, your reaction time is way slower and it slows you down when you're high. You put not only yourself in danger, but everyone around you. Talk about a buzzkill. Stop kidding yourself. It's not okay to drive high. If you've been using marijuana in any form, do not get behind the wheel. If you feel different, you drive different. Drive high. Get a DUI. We are back on the Locked On Royals podcast, on the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day. I am your host, Rylan Stiles. You can follow me on Twitter at Rylan_Stiles. You can follow the show on Twitter at Locked On Royals. Email the show, lockedonroyals@gmail.com. I want to thank you right now for making us your first listen every single morning, every single day. We're here for you, talking Royals baseball. Subscribe for free across all podcasting platforms and on YouTube. And also check out Locked On Chiefs, Locked On Jayhawks, Locked On Mizzou, Locked On K-State, and check out Locked On MLB for the national perspective on baseball. So we talked about the Friday game. Saturday comes around and the Royals lose 4-3. But in my opinion, it's once again your young pitching. And this is once again the struggle that the Royals found themselves in at the start of the season. Daniel Lynch comes in, 5 innings of work, gets roughed up for 9 hits, gives up 4 runs, 1 home run, 1 walk. He does strike out 6 batters, so again, he's showing you those flashes of, hey, this guy has really nasty stuff, but in the same breath, gives up 9 hits in 5 innings of work, gives up the 4 runs. The Royals give up 2 hits after he was pulled in the 5th, so they survived the 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th with just 2 hits allowed. Now, should 4 runs be a death sentence? Should 4 runs lose you a game in the modern era? No. But you see how if you clean that up just a touch, how much better the outcome is, how you can win more games, how you can be more successful as a team. I would still count this as a fine start for Daniel Lynch. He's a 5-and-fly kind of guy. Maybe goes 6 innings at best, in my opinion, for Daniel Lynch. So that's kind of the expectation level. And yes, 4 runs is not is not bearing your team by any means, or at least it shouldn't be if you want to be a good team. But there's just little instances where, yeah, you had 6 strikeouts. And if you tighten it up a little bit and you don't throw these kind of hittable pitches and you don't kind of leave things hanging, so to say, but then all of a sudden those 9 hits trickle down to 5 or 6, and then all of a sudden those runs trickle down as well. Snyder comes in, 1 inning, 1 hit, and then Hernandez comes in for 2 innings and gives up 1 hit across those 2 innings with a strikeout. And then Scott Barlow closes the door, and he continues to have a really successful year. He has a sub-2 ERA, 1 inning of work, 1 strikeout, no blemishes whatsoever. The Padres offense, though, continued to be awesome. You got Juan Soto back in that lineup, and he goes 2 for 4 with a run scored. Kim kept his hitting streak. He went 1 for 4. Manny Machado, 2-hit game. Drury gets a hit. Bell gets a hit. Myers gets a hit. Also, Nola gets 2 hits. And the Padres just kind of showed, their lineup is just so elongated now that they've traded for Josh Bell and Juan Soto. And it just makes you, as a baseball fan, it makes you disappointed in what Tatis decided to do. I mean, with the getting caught up with the steroids and stuff, I mean, this Padres team would be so fun to watch if you had Tatis added to this mix, which is already a really good lineup. I mean, imagine going Kim, Soto, Machado, Tatis, Drury, Bell, Myers, Cronenworth, Profar. I mean, that's a really deep lineup. And then Yu Darvish, who has a sub-4 ERA. It's sitting at 3.41 as his season ERA. And you got to him 3 times for 3 runs. I mean, 5 hits, 3 runs, 2 walks. He did strike out 2 over 7, I should say. I beg your pardon. He struck out 6 over 7. And then Suarez came back the second night in a row, 1 inning, 1 hit, and then Martinez got the save for 6th of the year. Now, I do want to say, I think that this young Royals lineup did a nice job against Yu Darvish, who's of course a veteran, who's of course been around a time or two, a decade or two, and knows what he's doing, and had a good game himself. But the Royals lineup did get 3 runs off of 7 hits, and they walked twice, and Nick Prado had a double in this contest. Bobby Witt Jr. got a hit and a walk. Hunter Dozier, 2-hit night. Mike Massey had a hit, and so did Kyle Isbell. I do think that the Royals' young offense, young lineup was able to flash a few positive things against Yu Darvish. I think that the biggest thing was just comfortability. I think that it's easy to go up against a guy who's a multi-time All-Star and a guy of Yu Darvish's caliber and maybe be shell-shocked, maybe be, overmatched mentally in the sense of feeling defeated before you even get to the plate. And the Royals had none of that. They had no quit, and they were able to try to battle, but Yu Darvish is just really, really good, and that's the bottom line. I didn't feel at any point as though the bat was taken out of the Royals players' hands. I didn't feel like at any point that they just kind of punted an at-bat or punted a situation or weren't ready to roll. And earlier in the year, it felt that way. Earlier in this season, it felt like the Royals were just overmatched mentally at the plate and that they were beating themselves before they got in the box and just subsiding to the fact that they would simply not have success. And it doesn't feel that way anymore for Kansas City at the dish. Now, they're still young players, and they're still going to have to adapt and grow and adjust to big league pitching. But I still like what we're seeing. So Sunday comes around, and this is another day where I'm saying, look, you got the off day to look forward to tomorrow. You've got a short trip out to Chicago to play the White Sox. Like, things might be getting put together here. And it was, and it did. The Royals hit a season high 18 hits, a season high 15 runs, and they were able to have success and win 15-7. And John Hazley, 5 innings of 4-run baseball with 4 hits allowed, 7 strikeouts, 2 walks, same kind of thing. And this is where my optimism rests. It's obvious John Hazley can pitch. It's obviously John Hazley has good enough stuff to be a 3-4 starter in the big leagues. It's obvious Daniel Lynch has good enough stuff to be a 2-3 starter in the big leagues. It's obvious that Chris Bubich has stuff to be one of your 5 rotational pieces in the big leagues. That's all obvious, and they show it to you within games, even in games that they give up 3, 4, 5, 6 runs in a game. They show it to you. They show you how good that they can pitch, but the sequencing might be off, and just minor things where you're not hitting your spots as accurately as you could from game to game. You're not duplicating that success from game to game. The fact that you're able to have the framework of 5 innings of 4-run baseball, but only give up 4 hits and only give up 2 walks and have 7 strikeouts, and just those 2 home runs cost you, where you're just kind of not following through. You're just kind of not finishing your pitches. You're just kind of hanging things up a little bit, a little too much. My optimism is because we've seen these guys have success in the bigs, and I believe that they're going to get a new pitching coach. I believe that a new pitching coach can come in, re-examine these guys, and make the proper adjustments, make the minor tweaks, make them have more success. And so this time your offense came through. We've been saying it for the last 2 weeks. 4 runs in the modern era should not be just considered a game in which you didn't give your offense a chance, and the offense picked up Hazley. Costa and Amir Garrett come in. They don't give up a single run. Miswick comes in, gives up 2 runs, but by that time the game was already in hand for the Royals. Coleman pitches a clean inning. Brad Keller, clean. And then Scott Barlow gets a clean hold. And then Luke Weaver comes in when the game is just completely locked down and loaded. And he gives up a run still. 1 inning, 3 hits, and a strikeout. Now, look, we did our crossover with Locked On D-backs about the Luke Weaver trade, and he was very anti-Luke Weaver. And so far, Luke Weaver's been really bad in Kansas City. But I think it's still a flyer worth taking. And I think that Luke Weaver, with an offseason of focusing on how to thrive in the bullpen, focusing on how to thrive in high-pressure situations. Maybe he can be a guy that goes from starter to bullpen and has a lot of success, as we've seen a lot of in the Dayton Moore era for Kansas City. But let's talk about this offense. Let's talk about how fun this team is. Michael A. Taylor, 3 for 6, 4 RBIs in the leadoff spot. Bobby Witt Jr. scores a run in this contest. Salvador Perez, 3 for 5 with 2 RBIs and 2 runs scored. Hunter Dozier, a 4-hit game for Hunter Dozier. 4 for 6, 3 runs scored. Drew Walters, 2 for 3 with 2 runs scored, 2 RBIs and 2 walks. This is what I'm talking about with Drew Walters. This dude's approach to at-bats is incredible, and it pays off where he gets on base 4 times in a game. 2 hits for Nicky Lopez, 2 hits for Riviero. Walters had a double, Nick Prado had a double. Michael A. Taylor hit a home run in the 7th, Salvador Perez hit a home run in the 6th, and the Royals were able to capitalize 7 for 15 with runners in scoring position. And it was a party. 18 hits, 15 runs scored. They won 15-7, and they got to Josh Hader. And the big story right now in baseball is the fact that the Royals were able to dominate Josh Hader. Josh Hader records a singular out and gives up 6 runs. He records a singular out and gives up 5 hits, 6 runs, 2 walks, and a strikeout. Not great. And then Will Myers pitches against the Royals, which is just funny because, of course, Will Myers was the top crown jewel of the Royals farm system at one time, and now he's pitching against you in a blowout. But he did have his fair share of success, obviously, at the dish this weekend. We just got done going over that. How do you feel about the weekend? We only win one game, but there were a few positive things to take away from each and every game. How are you looking at the weekend that was for Kansas City? Let me know in the comment section down below on YouTube. Also, let me know on Twitter at Rylan_Styles. Let me know an email address, lockdownroyals@gmail.com, and on Twitter, lockdownroyals as well. So you can follow the show anywhere you get your podcast from. Obviously, Apple, Spotify, Google Play, Stitcher, Odyssey, everything. You can also follow the show on YouTube. And I want to tell you right now that the fun doesn't stop. Just because we're done here at Locked On Royals for the day doesn't mean you're done at the Locked On Podcast Network. We've got you Locked On Chiefs for everything Chiefs related as you get set for Week 1 on September 11th against the Cardinals. We've got you set for Locked On Jayhawks as the Jayhawkers get set for their new season of football on Friday against Tennessee Tech. I've got the Jayhawks going to a bowl game this year. That's my hot take. You got Locked On Mizzou and also Locked On K-State you can listen to. And if you're only a baseball fan, folks, we got Locked On team podcasts for every single team and Locked On MLB for the national perspective on baseball. So a lot for you to go dive into, a lot for you to go sink your teeth into. Go check it out. We're going to come back tomorrow. And on tomorrow's show, we're going to ask the question, can the Royals make the postseason in 2023? Is there a world in which everything breaks right and everything is able to get put together for the Royals to make the postseason? We're going to dive into all of that on tomorrow's show. And so until then, be good and be good to one another.